You won't believe this insane but totally real story I recently came across on Reddit about dramatic family betrayal and ruthless karma. And let me tell you, as this tale of manipulation and greed unfolded, my jaw literally dropped. Between the aunt swindling away the inheritance, the niece fighting back, and then the crazy twists of fate that destroyed the aunt, this story has more shocks and satisfaction than an episode of a primetime drama. So settle in and get ready to hear this epic saga of fortune squandered, justice served, and the ultimate karmic downfall. You'll be shaking your head saying, "No way," but oh yes, every jaw-dropping bit is real. I can't even do the twists justice, so just listen for yourself. All I'll say is karma always wins in the end. Are you ready to dive into this nuts but absolutely true chronicle of family drama and getting one's just desserts? Then let's begin. The tension in our family was palpable, always lurking beneath the surface like a storm waiting to break. It wasn't difficult to see that my Nan held a peculiar fondness for my aunt, her eldest daughter. This preference was hard to ignore, especially considering my aunt's unconventional lifestyle. 3 children from different men and a remarriage to a man who sent shivers down our spines. Tragedy struck when my parents met their untimely demise in a car crash. As the dust settled and the shock wore off, I found solace in the words of my Nan. She assured me that my mother's share of the family estate would be rightfully passed down to me when her time came. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. A few years later, my Nan's health deteriorated and she passed away. To my utter disbelief, it was revealed that my aunt had inherited everything, the house and all of the belongings. It was a gut-wrenching betrayal that left me questioning everything. Determined to unravel the truth, I delved deeper into the circumstances surrounding my Nan's will. It was during this investigation that a startling revelation emerged. My aunt had been present when the will was changed, mere days before my Nan's passing. Confronting her with this damning evidence, she reluctantly admitted to her involvement but arrogantly claimed that it was all within the confines of the law. My world shattered as I realized that even the house my parents had built and cherished would be snatched away from me. With a sinking heart, I came to the painful realization that I had no legal standing in this situation. My parents had never written a will or formed any trust that named me beneficiary of their home. While my aunt had manipulated my grandmother's final wishes to her advantage, the revised will unquestionably left all assets solely to her. And without my own parents' paperwork, I had no recourse to contest my aunt's ownership of the house. I considered pursuing ethical arguments about her role in the changed will, but lawyers advised me that ambiguous moral high ground was rarely enough to overturn the black and white letter of the law. Appeals to compassion would likely fall on deaf ears. It became clear my aunt had known this advantage all along and was determined to quash any uprising over the property. She had moved fast, cementing her rights before I uncovered the full truth. This preemptive tactic had worked flawlessly to suppress my powerless position. To my disgust, my aunt had no qualms flaunting her newfound wealth and lavish lifestyle in front of my impoverished face. She constantly posted photos online from her whirlwind getaways, lounging on yachts and climbing out of private jets, always with an absurdly expensive designer handbag prominently displayed. Each image she sent documenting her lavish escapades twisted the knife deeper into my back. I had to bite my tongue to avoid responding with the torrent of outrage and despair I felt inside. Her weekly spa treatments for massages, manicures, facials, and other pampering extravagances typically exceeded what I made in an entire month. It was infuriating to witness her indulging in such excess after she had manipulated the inheritance that should have been mine. She was well aware the non-stop parade of luxurious purchases and dream vacations was pouring salt on my profound emotional wounds. But my aunt was determined to flaunt her newfound wealth and privilege at every opportunity. Her greed apparently knew no bounds. Not content with simply stealing my family's home, my aunt seemed determined to make matters even worse by flaunting her sole ownership at every turn. She made it abundantly clear that the house now unquestionably belonged to her alone. I was forced to grit my teeth in silence as she strutted from room to room like a conquering monarch, critiquing the decor and making grandiose plans to gut the place simply because she could. "I'll be making some updates to the kitchen," she declared breezily one day. "Never liked your mother's old-fashioned taste. I choked back furious tears, seeing my aunt defile our family home out of pettiness and greed. She seemed determined to erase every last trace of my parents. When I begged her to let me keep some sentimental items, she refused outright. "As I said, this is all mine now," she sneered. "I decide what stays and what goes." My parents had poured their lives into this home, filling it with love and laughter. Now my aunt was poised to gut it, discarding their legacy like rubbish. In my desperation, I reached out to my closest friends, seeking their guidance and support in this dark hour. One of them, Rob, who happened to be wealthy, offered me his penthouse, a refuge amidst the storm. Grateful for his generosity, I moved in, but the pain of leaving my parents' house was an unbearable burden on my heart. In the midst of this painful turmoil, the universe saw fit to send me a lifeline. One sunny morning at the park, I crossed paths with Joan, an old friend of my mother's I hadn't seen in years. We fell into eager conversation about better times, reminiscing on my mom's vibrant spirit. An hour passed like a minute. Before we parted, we exchanged numbers, both reluctant to let this thread to the past slip away again. Over the following weeks, my meetups with Joan became a solace amidst the storm. I found myself confessing it all: the will, my aunt's manipulation, the impending loss of my childhood home. Joan listened intently, her kind eyes welling up with empathy. As I unloaded the burden I had carried alone for so long, her embrace felt like that of a second mother. Then one overcast afternoon, after I had revealed my deepest fears, Joan leaned in conspiratorially. "What was it your mother used to call that little stone fountain in the backyard?" she asked. I blinked, unsure of her aim. "Oh, that old thing. She nicknamed it Francisco." At the name, Joan nodded gravely, as if confirming suspicions. "If you have any hope of saving your legacy, look to Francisco," she said. "Trust me on this." Puzzled but inspired, I thanked Joan as we parted. Once home, I went directly to the fountain, my mother's cryptic message echoing in my mind. Brushing soil aside, my fingers grazed something hard and metal. My heart nearly stopped as I unearthed the weathered box buried inches below. Gripping the cool handles, I knew my mother had left me a final gift. Heart pounding, I carried the weathered metal box inside, wiping the caked dirt away with trembling hands. This was surely the gift Joan had hinted at, but I couldn't bring myself to open it alone. I called my trusted friend Rob, one of the few who had stood unwaveringly by me through this nightmare. "Please, can you come over? I need you," I managed to choke out through tears. Rob arrived in minutes, his strong presence already soothing my raw nerves. "What's going on?" he asked gently. I led him wordlessly out to the fountain and retrieved the mysterious box from its hiding spot, handing it to him. Settling onto the back steps, Rob looked to me for a nod before slowly lifting the creaking lid. We both audibly gasped as the dazzling contents were revealed, glinting in the dappled sunlight. The box brimmed with glittering jewels, precious metals, and stacks of cash, easily millions of dollars worth. My parents had secretly safeguarded this fortune to ensure my future if anything happened to them. As I brushed my fingers over the treasures, I could almost hear my mother's voice from when I was a child. "If you ever find yourself alone and hope seems lost, remember Francisco will show the way." At the time, I thought it was merely a cryptic bedtime story, but now her words echoed back, granting new meaning. Securing my parents' hidden treasure was a profound relief, yet it could not fully ease the ache of all I had lost. The thought of facing my aunt in a legal battle, exposing her deceit for the world to see, was a temptation I wrestled with. But there she stood, still clutching the house that held the memories of my parents, my childhood, and my dreams. The advice echoed in my mind, urging me to spare myself from further heartache, and so I withdrew from the brink of legal warfare, each step a silent echo of surrender. It was a crushing blow, a hollow emptiness that gnawed at my soul. The house, its value quantified at an astonishing $700K, but it was worth far more to me sentimentally. But fate, it seemed, had a different plan. At first it seemed my aunt had secured her victory completely. She wasted no time finding eager buyers for my cherished childhood home. While I grieved the impending loss of the last piece of my past, my aunt trumpeted her triumph, embarking on lavish vacations and spending sprees with her anticipated windfall. Her taunting calls and ostentatious social media posts added insult to injury. But just when the sale was nearing finalization, I received a stunned call from my aunt. The buyers had abruptly pulled out. An inspection revealed the home's foundation was sinking rapidly into the unstable soil beneath. In an instant, the value nosedived to $60,000. My aunt's cry of dismay over the phone was music to my ears. I knew in that instant karma had come to collect at last. But karma wasn't done punishing my aunt yet. Now virtually bankrupt from her lavish spending, she was forced to crawl back to her estranged daughter, Sue. Sue lived with her unemployed husband and 3 kids in a cramped 3-bedroom house in a small town miles away. With nowhere else to turn, Bethany found herself crammed into their smallest room, forced to live off their meager generosity after decades of extravagance. Despite having blown through almost $1 million from my rightful inheritance living in the lap of luxury, my aunt now found herself virtually penniless and drowning in enormous debts. With no one else willing to help her out, she had to humble herself and beg her estranged daughter Sue for assistance. Sue begrudgingly agreed to make minimum payments on some bills to avoid total disaster. But tensions quickly rose in their overcrowded home as my aunt struggled to contribute. She soon realized that even these tiny debt payments were unsustainable without income of her own. Soon the once glamorous aunt who wouldn't be caught dead working was applying for minimum wage jobs she found utterly beneath her. The only offers she could get were for stocking shelves or washing dishes. My vindictive side took some satisfaction hearing my aunt complain about coming home reeking of fried food after 8 hours on her feet. She nearly suffered a meltdown being tasked with cleaning bathrooms. Of course, she was thoroughly incompetent at any manual labor after so many pampered years. She was fired from 3 jobs in a month for laziness and attitude. Try as she might to salvage some shred of her pride, my aunt had no choice but to grovel to Sue to avoid homelessness. The tables had turned. She was now the burdensome dependent barely tolerated out of obligation. How quickly karma had wiped that smug smile off her face. But still, karma had another thing in store for her. One day, Sue called me in a panic. My aunt's husband had emptied their joint savings account and disappeared without a trace, abandoning her to financial ruin. My aunt's cruel fate was now complete. Penniless and broken, she was ostracized by our whole extended family for her lifetime of manipulation and greed. In the end, not even her own daughter offered pity. I felt relief that justice had finally been served. She may have stolen my home, but she had lost so much more. Well, that concludes this incredible story of family drama and karma striking back. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And please like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another juicy, jaw-dropping true story like this one. Your support helps keep the channel going strong. Until next time, take care and remember, karma wins out in the end.